Welcome to Connecting Minds, Strengthening Communities, a virtual series presented by Arizona Youth Partnership. Every month, we bring together experts, community leaders, and partners to discuss the critical issues impacting youth, families, and communities across Arizona. Through meaningful conversations, expert insights, and real-world solutions, we aim to empower parents, caregivers, and community members with the knowledge and tools to support the next generation. Thank you for joining us today. If you're watching live, we encourage you to engage in the conversation using the chat. If you can't stay for the entire session, don't worry. This recording will be available on our website and social media for you to watch anytime. Now let's dive into today's discussion.
Hi, and welcome to Connecting Minds, Strengthening Communities, an initiative of Arizona Youth Partnership. My name is Gauri Gladish, and I serve as the CEO at AZYP. At AZYP, our mission is to empower youth to harness their strengths to live healthy and purposeful lives. We do this by engaging with youth, families, and communities through intentional programs and services, as well as through our partnerships with community organizations. We earn trust by creating an atmosphere of integrity and respect for all. Today, we are joined by two powerhouses in the Arizona community to talk about social media trends impacting youth. I'd like to turn it over to Darien Mathews, Program Manager in AZYP's Community Initiatives Division. Darien has led our Copper Corridor Coalition for over 5 years, as well as our Youth Coalition, helping to create safe and drug-free communities and cultivate Arizona's future leaders in prevention. The Copper Corridor Coalition is a Blue Ribbon Coalition awardee, which is an award recognition created by CATCA's National Coalition Institute with funding from the Office of National Drug Control Policy. The Copper Corridor Coalition was nominated and selected for this award based on their years of significant contributions to community-level substance use outcomes. The credential serves as a testament to the coalition's commitment to proven practices that lead to positive outcomes that transform their community. And at AZYP, we value Darien's leadership through his coalition work. Thanks for leading our discussion today, Darien.
Thank you, Gauri, so much for that warm introduction. And we have Bob DeVries with us. As Gauri mentioned, he is a powerhouse, and he also has a wealth of knowledge for us. So we thank you so much for joining us, Bob. And now we have an introduction for Bob because he is a very humble man. So we'd like to share a little bit about his background and also what you'll be able to take away from his wealth of experience. So Bob DeVries, he is the program director for the Mojave Substance Treatment Education Prevention Partnership, or MSTEPP, in Kingman, Arizona. Now, he started as a coordinator after he retired as the chief of police for Kingman in April of 2020. And then he joined the Kingman Police Department in 2003 after serving over 25 years with the Holland, Michigan Police Department. He obtained an associate's degree in criminal justice from the Muskegon Community College and a bachelor's degree in public administration from the Grand Valley State University. Additionally, he is a graduate of Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command and the Arizona Leadership Program sponsored by Arizona Post. Now, locally, he serves on the board of directors for the Kingman Area of Chamber of Commerce and the Kingman Regional Medical Center and the Kingman Academy of Learning. Again, Bob, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Aaron.
Now, we're going to dive in to the questions for you. And of course, these are going to be the key takeaways for both youth and for parents regarding social media. So we'll start with youth. Now, what should I do if I accidentally share something I shouldn't have online?
That's a really good question, and it happens each and every day. And as embarrassing as it might be, from that aspect, the best advice we can give the youth would be to entrust and go to a parent or a guardian, someone that they can trust. And many times they're going to be hesitant to do so because they don't want to make them angry or disappointed. But trust me, a parent would much rather be disappointed than to face the consequences of seeing something out there. So getting their advice, confiding in them as to what has occurred is the best thing that they can do at that point.
Such a good point, Bob. We appreciate you sharing that. Now, if I'm receiving pressure to share personal things or post things on social media, how can I handle that?
It would be the same recommendation that we would provide when we do different training programs related to substance use. And if somebody's pressuring them, the best thing you can do is have a system set up with your parent or guardian in regards to using them as the excuse. If somebody's pressuring you, they can convey that, hey, I can't. There's no way I can do this because my parents monitor. They've got it, my device locked down. They check my phone every night. Put the pressure back there and take it off from them. But again, they need to share that information with their parent, because if they're being pressured, odds are other kids are also being pressured, and hopefully we can put a stop to it. Cyberbullying is very effective out there, but it can be combated too.
And thank you for bringing up cyberbullying. We're actually going to get to that in one of our questions, but thank you for sharing that refusal skill with us. That was a key takeaway. Now, what are some of the risks of sharing my location on social media, and how can I avoid that?
That's a very dangerous thing that really I was unaware of initially as to the different applications and the locator device. They can actually zoom in a predator or individual that has other ill means can zoom right into where you're located, even within your own home. And that's an extremely dangerous situation. So any app that you get, if there is a locator component to it, deactivate it immediately and get that off from the phone, because you're exposing yourself to unnecessary danger.
That's a very practical suggestion. Appreciate that, Bob. Now, the next two questions for the youth are really around that cyberbullying. So how should I handle this if I feel uncomfortable when someone sends me posts online?
Number one, confront the individual right off the bat. And I know that may be uncomfortable, but just indicate, please do not send any additional. Do it politely but firmly in regards to that aspect. Next, share with a parent or guardian, again, as to what is occurring. We see the cyberbullying from that aspect. And kids a lot of times will say, I don't want to be labeled as a snitch. I don't want to say anything. When you have a cyberbullying aspect that's going on, that can be related to something that may happen at the school the next day. That's not a snitch. If an individual comes forward and shares information that may prevent somebody from being harmed or worse, that's a hero. Snitch is not the right word. Hero is the right word.
Thank you for bringing up the difference between those two. That was another key takeaway. Now, if there's a post or a message that really is a scam, how would I understand or know the difference between that? And including if there's a message that's intended to extort, including sextortion, how would I handle this?
It's the same, I think, and it's a learning experience each and every day. The individuals that are involved with this find new methods to gain information and to utilize it for ill means. The biggest thing is if it sounds not right, odds are it's not right, and to avoid it. Don't open documents or emails if you don't recognize who the sender is. Simply delete it and get rid of it. That's the best thing that you can do, because once you open those, you open a floodgate of other opportunities for those individuals to access into your computer, into your phone, and a multitude of others. So best thing is, you don't know, delete.
Yeah, very practical application. Appreciate that, Bob. So we're going to start to now go in to parent knowledge. And this is really designed for parents to help them to understand social media in their youth. And as we know, language around social media, it's like a foreign language now, isn't it, Bob? And it's evolved. So how has the language on social media evolved, in the recent years?
Well, the big thing is the acronyms, the emojis, many of these things that are being used. And it's important as a parent or a grandparent to keep up as best that they can with these things. and to try and learn. AZYP, along with the organization that we're part of, the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona, have different aspects there where you can log in and you can download information related to emojis and common acronyms that are being used by the kids and others on social media. And just the more we can educate ourselves, the better we can be at helping to protect our kids.
Thank you for that. And thank you for bringing out those resources for parents too. Now, what impact do emojis and that digital shorthand have on youth communication, both positive and negative?
Well, I think from a positive aspect, the kids have kind of developed their own little unique language, which under the right circumstances isn't harmful, and they can have fun with it. But at the same time, it can be used for ill means, and that's the things that we need to watch out for. It used to be when you wanted to obtain some illegal substances, you would have to go find an individual to do it. Now they are very brazen in advertising on a multitude of the different applications that are out there. When I talk with parents and grandparents alike, I tell them, unbeknownst, I said, you have one of the largest drug dealers in your home. And it's because of the social media aspect and the different applications where kids can literally purchase and have it delivered right to their doorstep. So parents need to be aware of that, and they need to have an understanding of the different emojis as to what's going on. And again, I would use AZYP and the SACLO websites for the tools that are there and the other resources, and get educated to hopefully prevent a problem.
Thank you, Bob, for that. And now, of course, these social media apps, they also affect youth social behaviors. And so what effect can that play on youth today? And what's the takeaway for parents?
I think that's one of the most alarming things that we're seeing right now. We rely very heavily upon the Arizona Youth Survey, which is one of the most respected youth surveys in the country. And what we are seeing now and what is trending is the amount of depression and isolation that's occurring, in particular among young females. And from there, they're beginning to experiment and get involved with substances just to help cope and get through it. And some of the best things that they can do is, instead of going to a substance to try and get with it, I would recommend, and other experts would also recommend, is detox from your own phone. Leave your phone alone for 24 hours. Put it away. Coming from a career where I was on call for many, many years, trust me, putting my phone away is a very enjoyable thing. I take that time and relish in it. But those are some of the things for parents to be able to monitor the pressure, the influencers, the negative aspects that can come from the social media. You need to be monitoring the child.
I appreciate that point, Bob. Really, what a nice challenge for both youth and parents to put the phones away for 24 hours. So that's another key takeaway for families. We appreciate you sharing that.
It is. And, coming from as a parent and grandparent, there's nothing more frustrating that we have to lead by example. But when I'm in a restaurant and I see a family sitting around the table or in the booth, and they're all staring at their phones and no talking with each other, we need to lead by example and have those social times, those phone.
Way for parents, lead by example. Thank you, Bob. Are there any emerging trends in social media language that parents and caregivers should be aware of now?
I think the biggest emerging trend is it changes by day by day. And that's the hardest part, is to make sure that you're staying up on it. If your child or grandchild has it, carry on conversations with them. What are they watching? What are they doing? And parents should have devices on there where they can monitor what is going on. But you also need to be aware that for every monitoring device, the kids are aware of a way to do a workaround. So you have to be very much so on top of it as to what's occurring with those phones, and making sure. One thing that you can do, and I would highly recommend, is that don't let them charge the phones in their room. Have it in a central location, because if they're in their room and they're supposed to be sleeping, what we find many times talking with the kids, they're up until the wee hours of the morning on their phones. Take that phone out of there and don't leave it there for any type of enticement.
What a practical suggestion. Don't let them charge the phone in the room. That's another key takeaway. Now, how can social media hinder the development of emotional intelligence? You spoke about this briefly, but can you speak on that a little bit more regarding emotional intelligence?
Yeah, what we're seeing right now, like I say, the most alarming part is the pressure that kids are feeling, the influencers, and I think it's only going to get, to be honest with you, worse with the artificial intelligence and those aspects that we're beginning to learn more and more about. But we have to be ever so vigilant in monitoring what the kids are doing, how they're behaving, and if you begin to see signs of withdrawal, those are indicators of things that you should really start to pick up on and find out what's actually going on with them. Kids can be pressured in regards to their physical appearance, sharing photos that are inappropriate. All of those things begin to put a ton of pressure on things that we little tool. It can be a great tool, but it can also be a very dangerous tool. So keeping up with those lack of sleeping, all of those things can lead, and you need to dig into it further at that point.
Mm. Can you share a little bit more? This is an auxiliary question regarding emotional intelligence. What are some other patterns that parents might see that youth may start to decline in their emotional intelligence?
Some of the things that we're seeing primarily is the withdrawal and the inability to be able to even carry on conversations. I've seen it, and I've talked with parents where kids just lock themselves in their room, and they're either on social media or they're doing video games, and they begin to kind of move back into their own little world there that they kind of feel isolated. And from that aspect, anything dangerous can happen. And it's important that you keep those communication lines open, because the more they withdraw, and we're seeing it already out there in the workforce, is the inability for people to communicate face to face.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is electronic and technology, and it's concerning, and it's things that we need to stay on top of.
Yeah. So this question is really connected with what you just mentioned. So how is social media then affecting the way that they can maintain their friendships and relationships?
I could share a situation that we had that we addressed here, and it was with two of our grandkids. Mm-hmm. One was sitting outside and one was in the living room. They didn't walk in to talk to each other. They texted each other from their different locations, and they were about 15 feet apart. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that breakdown in face-to-face communication and those abilities to interact and work with kids. So that's alarming. And if you start to see that your child is not necessarily hanging around with kids, but is more so just doing it online, those are things that you need to be tuning into and monitoring very closely.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that personal experience too. No doubt parents can relate to. Now, of course, there's different social media apps: Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. And you talked a little bit about how it influences youth behavior, but can you speak a little bit more on language of youth and how it's affecting their language?
I think from the language that we hear, you hear a lot of the different, they'll utilize acronyms and very quickly versus just carrying on a normal conversation. And those are things that parents should be picking up on, that they're utilizing it too much, and they're basically living through their virtual reality. And I've seen that with a young boy who really, as he was talking with his parents, all the conversation would relate back to a video game or would relate back to a social app. And it wasn't real experiences, it was virtual experiences that he was discussing. And it was an alarming sign for the parents to be able to go, we need to start to have different types of interaction versus their child just disappearing into his room and staying on the phone. or on his tablet all day. And it's just not a healthy situation. So the lack of the ability to be able to communicate face to face and interact with each other and is the growing trend that we're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm. And no doubt you've seen how this has become really like a digital identity for youth that they've created separately on social media. But how does this now affect their real world behavior?
That's the challenge I think you're seeing in some of the workforce right now is the inability for that communication and the withdrawal. Kids have not been necessarily exposed to it, so they don't really know how to interact with it. So the more we can take it away, like I said before, is doing those detox times, taking that time away so that they have that opportunity to get more involved in a one-on-one relationship or with a group in a healthy setting are very positive things to push and monitor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Now, you already spoke about really how social media language affects the attitudes of youth. Can you talk a little bit more on a broader sense with cultural trends that this may start to affect?
From a cultural aspect, it's a little bit difficult to understand how each one will impact. But I think the greater aspect is how it's occurring with the acronyms, with the emojis. And each one may carry a different meaning based upon an individual's upbringing or culture. So those are things that we need to be sensitive to. And you can even see it from an aspect of adults or seniors that are interacting and want to be like their kids and see what they're doing with the acronyms. And I use an example up here where there had been a death in the family. And the lady, it was senior, reached out to the family and expressed her sympathy and then ended it with LOL. And people were horribly offended, be thinking that she meant laugh out loud, when in fact she thought she was saying lots of love. So you just don't know how that's going to be taken by an individual, and you need to be careful. If you want to have that message, you want to send the message, write it out. Don't use an acronym if you really aren't familiar with how it's read.
Yeah, what an important takeaway. Now, the next two questions really are going to identify how we as community leaders can help, and then also then how parents can get resources as well. So first, how can educators and community leaders intervene or help guide youth in using social media more responsibly and respectfully?
I think the thing is going where they are and having these conversations with them. We tried to host a social media awareness program here and put a lot of advertising into it, partnered up with AZYP, and we had 3 people show up. That's very disheartening when you put a lot of time and effort and you have a very important message to do. So go where they are and set up there and start those conversations where they're at. Go to the youth soccer sign up. Go to the Little League sign up. Go to the different school events and set up there and begin to have these conversations with them. But if we sit there and wait for them to come to us, it's not going to happen. We have to go where they're at because this is an important topic that we need to spread throughout the entire community.
So true. Another key takeaway for community leaders: go to where the people are. I appreciate that, Bob. Now, what resources or tools, of course, you've mentioned a few, but are there any additional ones that you would recommend for parents or caregivers who want to better understand their child's social media use and even language behind it?
I think utilizing AZYP is pretty much statewide through here and highly respected. And I would recommend the SACLA website. And we also have multiple other websites that are linked on there that people can go to and follow up with. But the best thing to do is immerse yourself in it and learn about it. But then, like I said earlier, is practice it as well. Lead by example and set those barriers, set those timeframes, and hopefully we'll
for that. As I was mentioning, that saclaaz.org, there's many toolkits, but there are some focuses on youth resiliency and social media. and parents can feel free to receive the toolkit online. And there are many additional resources that's provided through that website. Bob, thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge and experience. We all took something away from this and learned from you today. We're going to now move into our Q&A, if any have question and answers. So we'll now turn it over to Gori.
Thanks so much, Darien, for leading this conversation. And Bob, you're so insightful, and you have such a authentic and caring way of relaying this really important information. So thanks so much for your time and your expertise. There were a few questions. I'd love to start with my question. And I know this was something that we talked about as we were setting up for this call. I mentioned that last summer, my daughter who's 9, was playing on Roblox. And as a parent who thinks, I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew about the security features. I thought I knew about like what to turn on and what to turn off, making sure she's only playing with friends that I've approved through the app. And I found out that there was actually someone in the game following her, trying to friend her or give her some type of gift. And I asked her, I was like, who's this person? And she said, I don't know who this person is. And then I realized that I didn't know everything. And there were loopholes in the game and that app that were allowing security features not to be at their full capacity. So I think my question is, what security measures can parents and caregivers put on their children's electronic devices? Or do you have any insight about, how to help parents and caregivers understand and know if security features are even enabled on their kids' devices?
Right. And there's several different applications out there that you can download to really lock up the phone. But as I mentioned earlier too, for just about every one of them that you put in place, there's workarounds with that. And that's where you've got to set down the parameters with your child in regards to having those conversations. And like you said, it's a good thing that you had the conversation with them ahead of time, that they knew enough to come to you, because if it doesn't seem right, odds are it's not right. And let them know that it's okay to come to you with those things. But there's not one that I would necessarily recommend over the other. There's several of them out there that are good, but just also be aware that unfortunately in that world, once you get a lock in, you're going to find some way to unlock.
Yeah, thanks. So in your opinion, what are some of the apps that parents and caregivers need to keep a lookout for?
Snapchat has been the number one in regards to drug trafficking that has gone on. Another one that we're aware of here, and we had a very unfortunate incident that happened in our community, was called Whisper. And a lot of these apps where whatever they put in there disappears and there's no tracing from some aspects. But we had a situation here that occurred, and we found out at the Christmas holiday. Had a family from out of state reach out to us asking for help, because what had happened is they had a young lady here, mother, who had some physical illnesses as well as some behavioral issues. And coming into Christmas holiday, she was extremely anxious. Son went on to the Whisper app and met up with an individual here in town that he thought he was buying some Xanax to help mom get through the holiday. And went home, gave them to her, and Christmas Eve morning, she never woke up. So these are the kind of things that are out there that we need to have the talk with the kids. But any social media app right now, if it's in your home, the door's open for them to pursue and push the drugs into your home. So that's why I recommend no phones in the rooms at nighttime, and monitoring and just making sure that you stay up as to what's going on with that device.
Great, thank you. That's heartbreaking and so preventable in some situations, right?
Exactly.
The last question is, what recommendations do you have for parents and caregivers on starting the digital safety talk with their youth?
Well, hopefully you're able to sit down with them and have those conversations. Like I say, don't be that family that's in the restaurant, everybody's staring at their phone. and having, I talk with the grandkids about it on a regular basis and just strike up conversations with them. Start it off easy, and then you can move into some of the other areas of concern and ask questions and find out. The kids will tell you for the most part, and if they're being deceptive, you're going to be able to pick up on that. But start to talk about your concern as a parent, and that they absolutely know they can come to you. And there's obviously times you're going to be disappointed, but a parent is there to protect their children, and that's all you're trying to do is make sure that they're safe and caring.
Thank you. I have appreciated this time so much. Thank you, Bob, Darien. Huge thank you for this insightful and important conversation. And I want to thank everyone joining us for Connecting Minds, Strengthening Communities. This video recording will be hosted on the AZYP website at www.azyp.org. While you're on our website, I encourage you to check out the impactful work we do throughout the state. And if you feel moved, you can always hit that donate button to show your support for the AZYP mission. And with that, I thank you both, and I wish you both and everyone watching a very happy, safe, and restful weekend.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks so much.